Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Amanda Greaser. I'm the Integrated Marketing Communications Coordinator for Project Management here at HACC. We're really very excited about the launch of this long-awaited new tool, and I hope you are too. I think you will find that we've made a lot of improvements to the form that are going to really save everyone a lot of time and make everyone's lives easier. The first thing that I want to walk you through is a new resource called a Communications Hub Planning Guide. This is an additional tool that's intended to help you gather everything that you need for your request and help you to think about your project. The Communications Hub Planning Guide is currently available on HACC. You'll see it if you scroll down to the Office of College Advancement channel and look under our online forms. It's this document right here, Communications Hub Planning Guide. So I'd just like to walk you through the various components of the guide. I encourage you to refer to this document as part of your planning process anytime that you have an event, initiative, or program that you want to promote. The first thing that we want you to do is think about your audience. These are the people who are going to be the most interested in your initiative or program and who you really want to reach through the tactics that you will be requesting through the hub. When you think about target audiences, you might think about groups such as current students, future students, could be alumni, it could be the media, or other groups of individuals. So that's the first phase of the planning guide that we ask you to think about. Second, we have some guidelines on how to develop your content. When you submit a Communications Hub request, we ask that you provide us with at least a rough draft of the content that is going to go into the pieces that you're requesting. We don't need your content to be perfect by any stretch. What my colleague Megan likes to say is that if you're thinking of it on a scale of 1 to 10, if you can give us a 5 in terms of some rough content, that's really helpful to us. So this planning guide includes a number of questions that are going to prompt you into thinking about and writing your content. We want you to answer some of the most pressing questions about your initiative, like what are the main points that your target audience needs to know? What makes your program or initiative special? What is your call to action? If you're able to answer all of these questions and express them in a Word document, then you will be in really good shape when it's time to submit your hub request. Finally, the planning guide includes a list of all of the many different tactics that you want to think about and choose from when you submit your Communications Hub request. Things like advertising, email blasts, perhaps some newsletter articles. The guide includes information about whether or not this tactic is ultimately handled by the Office of College Advancement, as well as the number of business days that we need to successfully execute the tactic that you're asking for. So we ask you to please make a note of all of these time frames as you're thinking about your project. We encourage you to always plan well in advance of when your program or initiative is about to launch so that we have plenty of time to implement it and really deliver a final product that is effective and that reaches your target audience. So again, this document is currently available on HACC in the Office of College Advancement channel under our online forms. What I've done actually is use that Communications Hub Planning Guide to prepare an example of some rough content. So this is the sort of example request that I'm going to be submitting through our new Communications Hub. I've used the Communications Hub Planning Guide to answer some key questions. So this is an example of what your content might look like when you upload it into the hub. I've thought about my target audience. By the way, I'm planning a spectacular arts and music festival for the purpose of this demonstration. So my target audience is going to be HACC students, alumni, members of the committee. I have thought about the purpose of my project and some of the goals behind it. I've written down some of the key points. I made a note of what makes my event special. I've also included a testimonial from a HACC alumna, just as by way of an example. We know that testimonials are really effective, and we encourage you to include them in your content whenever possible. I have my call to action. I have a website where people can go for more information. I've thought about the different tactics that I want IMC to handle or that I want to submit as part of my request. And I've also drafted some additional content for a SkiGram article. You can put as much content as you want in the Word document that you upload with your Communications Hub request. And you'll see exactly how this works as I get into the demonstration. But I just kind of wanted to show everyone how that planning guide translates into this Word document of the nuts and bolts of my program. Okay, here we go. We're going to now enter into the brand new Communications Hub. I want to first note that you can log in using exactly the same information that you use now. It's your very same HACC ID and password. So this is the new dashboard that you will see every time you log into the Communications Hub. I want to point out just a few features in here that are going to come in handy. You can sort any one of the columns in the dashboard. So when the dashboard starts to fill up with different types of requests, it'll be very easy to, for instance, sort by the status of your request. You can sort by the request date. You can even search. So for instance, if I were to start typing in foundation, the Communications Hub automatically narrows down to any requests that include the word foundation in them. You can go in and look at past requests by clicking on the magnifying glass. It's very easy to view a summary of your requests that way. You can also download a PDF of previous requests by clicking on that Adobe icon over here. So I'm going to walk through the process of submitting a new request. All you have to do to get started is click on this Create New Request button. You'll note that supervisor information is automatically being pulled from Banner. So in the current Communications Hub, each person is responsible for updating supervisor details and information. If your supervisor were to change at some point in time, users have to manually log in and change that information. But now it's automatically being pulled through our Banner system. The production procedures, some of you are already familiar with. Do want to note that we have condensed them, made them a little bit more concise. So I do encourage you to look back at them again whenever you're ready to submit a new request in the new Communications Hub. You'll have to select and acknowledge that you've read the production procedures each time you submit a request. And this is the point where I'm going to choose the communication selections that align with my target audience. So this is where thinking about that target audience really comes into play. I mentioned that I definitely want to communicate with alumni, and who else did I say? Let's go back to my document. Students, alumni, and members of the community. So I'm going to choose this first option, communicate with external audiences. I'm also going to communicate with internal audiences and click Next. Some of you might be familiar with this section of the Communications Hub. It looks pretty similar. One new piece we've added is the strategic plan goal question. We really want you to think strategically about your Communications Hub requests. Of course, we always want to keep the strategic plan in mind, regardless of the project that we're working on. This information is also really helpful to the Office of College Advancement when it comes time to do certain types of reporting. Just going to talk out loud as I complete my request so everyone knows exactly what I'm doing here. So my project title, HACC 2019 Arts and Music Festival. I'm going to say that this is related to our first strategic plan goal, advancing academic excellence. I have the purpose of my project, showcase the work of HACC students and local artists in Central Pennsylvania. How will my project impact the college? It'll be a creative opportunity for people of all walks of life. This is going to be at your campus, and it's taking place on April 2nd, 2019. Going to measure the success of my project by the number of people who attend. I am going to be requesting design materials. So the design materials will be distributed among HACC students and shared in community spaces. It's really helpful to our team if you can provide as much detail as possible when answering this section of the Communications Hub. It's going to really help us to understand the scope and purpose of your project. So please feel free to share as much detail as possible. I'm going to say no to did I receive funding from the HACC Foundation, and click next. So this is the point where I'm really going to start selecting the tactics that I noted. So just referring briefly back to the planning guide again, at this point, I should have already looked at my planning guide, and I have an understanding of the different tactics that I'm interested in. I'm going to choose email blast. I'd like some graphic design work done. And I think I'd also like to include this in the skigram. So I'm just going to answer these questions one by one. Is my email blast for the HACC Foundation? I'm going to say no. In terms of my distribution date, I'd like to start promoting sometime in February. You'll note that as I complete these forms, there's some very sophisticated error checking that's been built into the new Communications Hub. Anytime you see things that are highlighted in red like this, it means that the site is asking for more detail from you. It won't be until I successfully complete that information that the error message goes away. Okay, for my email blast, I want to contact alumni, and I also have a specific list of community members. I don't need these before the specified lead time, which is 20 business days as indicated up here, so I don't need to complete that. This is a new feature of the Communications Hub where you can just check off the audiences that you wish to target through your email blast. So for this, I am targeting alumni. I also have a special list of individuals. So I'm going to upload an Excel sheet which has some contact information. And this is the point where I also upload that Word document with all of my content for the project. Okay? Looks like everything is showing up green with a nice green check mark. So it looks like I'm good. I'd also like a postcard. Each time you select one of these items, you'll get a special drop-down menu with some additional options. I'd like an 8.5 by 5.5 postcard. I'm not requesting a reprint, it's a new item. I do want it to be printed. I'm going to say that I'd like 5,000 postcards. This account number section is something that I really want to point out to everyone. The account number has been reformatted in the new site, and it will only accept an 18-digit account number. So please make sure that you have that information with you at the time that you're submitting your request. If we don't receive an accurate account number, unfortunately, we're not able to move forward with printing your item. So please make sure that the account number that you provide is accurate and that it has sufficient funds to cover the cost of printing. Since this is a postcard, I'm going to say that I do want it to be mailed. We consider that to be a self-mailer because there's no envelope. I'd like to mail all 5,000 of them. And I'm going to once again include my account number for postage of sending this postcard. And my requested deadline is also going to be early February. Going to upload the same content again. Oh, I apologize. So this is a good example. I've attempted to upload a JPEG here instead of a Word file. So the site is letting me know it doesn't like that. I'm going to go back in, find my Word document. There we go. I can here upload my JPEG image, which is a new feature of the Communications Hub. And I'm also going to upload a spreadsheet of mailing addresses for my postcard. If there were any additional comments, for instance, if you wanted to give us an example of another postcard that you really like and wanted us to refer back to, you could enter something like that here. Any sort of unique details that you think are important for us to know, you can enter into this additional comments field, okay? Skigram was another tactic that I clicked off, and it looks like I am being directed to a separate online form. So that I'll have some additional action to follow up with later in order to submit a Skigram article. Right now, I'm going to click next. All right, I know that I want to contact HACC students as well. HACC students are considered an internal audience. I want to send them an email blast, and I'm going to send it to them around the same time frame, early February. I'd like to send it to current students at all campuses. We have mailing lists for current students in our database. So in this instance, it's not necessary for you to upload a Microsoft Excel file. Some of you may have requested email blasts through the current Communications Hub, and you'll know that the site will not let you move forward without uploading some sort of file. That is a programming error that we have addressed in the new Communications Hub, so it's no longer necessary for you to do that if you know that OCA does in fact have those lists. I am, however, going to upload my content one more time here and click next. Okay, I'm now looking at a request summary screen. At this point, I can scroll down and make sure all the details I've provided are accurate. I can always go back and modify details of my request. If I think of something else before I click submit, let's say I would also like a Facebook page, it's easy to go back and select an additional item to add to your request. I feel pretty good about the tactics I've selected, and all of the content seems accurate. So I'm just going to scroll down and click submit. I want to draw your attention to this final screen here. If there are any tactics that are not handled by the Office of College Advancement, you'll see this highlighted here, required action. I asked for a Skigram article to be included as part of my request. The Hub is telling me that in order for me to include information in the Skigram, there's something else that I have to do, and it automatically redirects me to the online form where I can submit my Skigram request. As always, you'll get a specific tracking number that is associated with your project, and as before, your request is going to be sent on to your supervisor, who is then responsible for reviewing your request and either approving it or disapproving it. So that process remains the same. Once you click I'm done, you'll return to your dashboard. You can see this is the request that I've submitted here. It's pending approval, which means that my supervisor is going to automatically be prompted to take a look at it. They will then need to log into the Communications Hub and review my request and approve it before it moves forward to the Office of College Advancement. So that's just one example of kind of a common type of request. We frequently get requests for graphic design projects and for email blasts. So I wanted to show you something that is fairly traditional. I see a number of questions I think that are popping up. So let's go ahead and move into some Q&A. One individual asked that if I had to upload files such as the mailing list twice. I have noticed that that's actually a browser issue. I'm currently using Firefox, and I have noticed that when I go to upload content, I've had to click on that browse button twice. I think it's kind of just a quirky little browser error. I have found that if I enter a request through something like Google Chrome or Internet Explorer, I don't run into that issue. So it's not actually uploading it twice, but it seems like just a browser quirk that we are not able to get around. Some other questions here. When submitting an email file, do we only submit the email address? So this individual is asking if we upload a spreadsheet and they want to personalize a mass email, can you provide the additional columns? So let me show you what I've done here. I believe if I'm understanding the question correctly. If you wanted to submit your Excel spreadsheet for a mass email blast, we do have the capability to personalize certain types of emails. I won't say that we can do it across the board just because of the way that certain email blasts are formatted, but there are instances where we are able to insert a person's first name. So the email blast could start off with, "Dear Amanda, you are invited to the 2019 HACC Arts and Music Festival." So yes, you can upload a list that's formatted with the individual's name and email address. Okay, there's a question. How can we get information regarding how much things will cost so we know if we have enough in our budget? For those types of questions, it really varies on a case-by-case basis. We don't include any sort of estimates in the Communications Hub, and it just depends on the quantity and the type of material that you're asking for. So in those instances, I would encourage you to just send an email to imcprojects@hacc.edu and let us know what type of material you're asking for, how many you need, and that will be able to give you a much more accurate estimate of what that material will cost so that you can kind of work it into your budget accordingly. Email blasts, I will note as well, unless they are tied to the HACC Foundation, are covered by our college-wide marketing budget. There's no cost to send things like email blasts or phone blasts as well. Are there any changes to how we order name badges, letterhead, or business cards? Good question. So that process is going to look pretty much the same. And I can just quickly run through an example here for you. So the language on the communication selection screen is similar. You're going to select this choice here. I'd like to obtain non-promotional materials, including business cards, envelopes, letterhead, and name badges. Select Next. For a request such as this one, it's not necessary for you to enter items like your project title or your project goals. These are really cut and dry materials. So that's another thing that we implemented with the new Communications Hub. We know these are just things that you need to have, for lack of a better phrase. So we don't feel that it's completely necessary for you to think about things like your strategic plan goal and how you're going to measure the success of your request. They're pretty straightforward. So let's say, for instance, if I wanted to order all 3 of these items, you simply check off next to each one and click Next. I notice here that I have some additional follow-up action that'll need to take place. So I'm going to click Submit. And just like before with the example of the skigram, each one of these is going to point me to the specific online form, which is outside of the Communications Hub, where I'm going to ask for each of these items. I want to show you another thing though. When I click on I'm done and return to my dashboard, you'll notice that that request has this purple status icon, your action required. So it's really easy for you to log into the Communications Hub, take a look at that request, and see the additional follow-up items that you need to take care of. We think of it sort of like a homework screen. So there's some additional legwork that you'll need to complete in order to order items like that. Good question. All right, for testimonials, is there a way to find out what testimonials already exist in the story bank? There is, and we have actually just implemented a new online form. The link to request testimonials from the story bank is included in this Communications Hub planning guide. So you'll notice it right here. Submit the online form for a copy of a story bank submission. Excellent. So here's what that form looks like. We'll ask you to provide a few details. You might know of a specific individual who has said that they've completed the story bank. You could enter their name directly into the form, or if you have a more general idea, you can indicate something like, I would like submissions from HACC students who are enrolled in respiratory therapy, whatever program you may need. You can also narrow it down by campus. Another question, do you have to go through the Communications Hub to request name tags, envelopes, etc.? Yes, we still ask that you go through the Communications Hub. So just like I noted in the example that I just did, this is what your request will look like if you are asking for things like name badges, business cards, letterhead, and envelopes. The Communications Hub is kind of your starting point for if you need to order those items, and then it'll direct you to an outside form where you really complete the process. Can I edit a request that has been disapproved by my supervisor? You can. So let's say, for instance, you submit a request, your supervisor takes a look at it, and for some reason they disapprove it. You will not get an automatic notification from the Communications Hub that your request has been disapproved. However, your supervisor can easily let you know that something might be missing and they need you to go back in and rework your request. Maybe some pertinent details have been left out. Maybe they want you to include additional tactics. So it is very easy to go in. Here's an example on the dashboard, in fact, that I can show you. My colleague Amanda submitted a test request for, I believe it was a news release, and her supervisor disapproved it. At this point, Amanda can go in and click on this, see this little pencil icon, which allows her to edit her request. So she could go through, she could add additional tactics, she could upload new content, she could change information about the purpose of the project, whatever needs to be done to modify that request to make it acceptable and make sure that it's really complete so that her supervisor approves it. Not going to fiddle around with that too much longer, just in case Amanda needs to go back to it at some point. But you can note now the status of that request has changed from disapproved to edit in progress. After a project is accepted, will the system prompt us in the same way to communicate? I might need some more detail from you about this question. So once your project is submitted through the communications, it will automatically prompt your supervisor to log into the hub, review it, and either approve it or disapprove it. If the project is approved, it will then be processed in the same way that you have experienced in the past. So we are still using WorkZone, which is a completely separate project management site, and we will continue to use WorkZone to communicate with you as we get into the nuts and bolts of your project. So hopefully that answered your question. Do you get a notification if approved? So you will not get an automatic notification, but this status icon will change when you log into the Communications Hub. I want to just note again that you'll receive confirmation through WorkZone, that separate project management site, once your request really starts getting in motion. So you'll receive a confirmation message that way within 2 to 3 business days of when your request is approved by your supervisor. So you'll really get concrete confirmation through WorkZone. Hopefully that answers your question about notifications. Next question, can you submit a hub request without providing the email list because it is still being assembled or revised, or photos because you're still reviewing the Flickr account? We ask that you provide those details when you submit your hub request. It really prevents us from moving forward if we don't have all the information that we need. We recognize that there are some circumstances where you might need additional time in order to prepare an email list. I have seen that in the past, but especially when it comes to things like images and the content for your project, we really need all of that up front. Otherwise, we're not really able to move forward with your request. If you are unsure about how to select photos through Flickr, you're welcome to touch base with us and see if we might know of some albums that are out there. It's a huge library of photos. We almost always, I think, have something that'll meet your needs. But if you're not really finding what you're looking for, shoot us an email, imcprojects@hack.edu, and we can try to assist you and come up with some recommendations if we have some for photos. If you have any questions at all at any point in time, especially as we're making the transition to the new communications hub, imcprojects@hack.edu is your dedicated email address. We are here and we're ready to provide all the support that you need once we go live. I also want to note that we welcome you to submit your feedback about the form as we go through the launch together. You can do that through MyHACC. Again, in the Office of College Advancement area under the online forms, we have OCA comments, suggestions, and questions. I invite you to share your feedback about how things are going. Let us know what you love. Let us know what things maybe need to be tweaked or improved. We want you to be honest, and we do want your feedback because we want this to be a tool that works for everyone. All right, I see one additional question that's come through. What will happen to current hub requests? Will they be transferred over to the new system? Anything that is in the hub right now needs to be approved by tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last day for any requests that are in process to be submitted and approved by supervisors. If your request is not approved by tomorrow, you'll have to resubmit it in the new site. We have some requests that are still in the site and are still in processing mode, so those are not going to go away. The individuals that submitted the request have already been contacted, and we're getting follow-up details that we might need to move forward with their requests. But as I said, anything in the site right now that has not been submitted and approved by tomorrow will need to be resubmitted in the new site. But that was really all I needed to cover today. I want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you for your support and your patience as we have worked to bring this site to life. I also want to thank Teresa Richwine really quickly, Quafam, Kelly Swanson, and the HACC Foundation, who have all been part of this project as well.